And so one day at school, we went to school, and I didn't go, I think one time, I didn't go every Friday, but this one kid said, we went last week, and there was a group called the James Gang, and there's this guy, he looks just like Jesus. He's got real long hair and a big beard. He had bell bottoms and sandals, and he's a fully grown man. This guy's not no teenager. He says he just came from Germany, got out of the Army, and they said he had played with Jeff Beck and Matt Clapton, and he knows how to play all those famous songs. Purple Haze, Fire, Eric Clapton, The Creams, Sunshine of Your Love. All the songs we were dying to learn how to play that we didn't know what they were doing just by listening to the record.
He knew the technique.
And he goes, and you know how you get that tremolo sound with the tremolo unit? The tremolo unit's on a guitar, that bar.
Yeah, the whammy bar kind of thing.
Well, in years to come, they would change the name of it, and nowadays they call it the whammy bar, or they call it. We knew it as the tremolo unit. So it's tremolo unit, whammy bar, vibrato bar was called. Anyways, so that's the only way you can get that wobbly sound, right? And the kid says, this guitar player, the James Gang, can do it with his fingers, man. He gets that sound with his fingers, and I'm going, get out of here. That's not. I don't even believe that. He goes, no, you got to see him, man. And he's got all the sounds down. And I go, we got to go see this guy. So we got a posse together that next Friday, and we went up there. And sure enough, I never forget, we stood in front of the stage like, and all the kids would always go, let's see what this guy can do. And somebody would always, anybody that was a guitar player in a band would plug in and always show off, their chops a little bit, like do a little shredding, like, or they'd play,
Right.
And then we'd all go like, hey, this guy sounds like he's going to be pretty good. He's going to be pretty good, and so Glenn came out. I never forget, it was kind of crazy how it happened. Actually, Jimmy Fox had Glenn's guitar in his hand, and he was sitting on the corner of the stage just playing around with it. And we thought he was the guitar player, but he was the drummer.
Yeah.
And we're watching him looking and going, I don't know about this guy, And then all of a sudden, then he gets off the guitar, and he hands it to this other guy, and here comes Glenn, like Jesus. And he gets on the drums. Oh, he's the drummer. Oh, that's the guy. Okay, and we're like so intimidated. I mean, we're 12 years old.
Jeez Louise.
And Glenn's like 27, 28. He's like a fully grown man.
Yeah.
And nobody had hair down to their shoulders. Nobody had a beard. Nobody wore sandals. And for that reason alone, we called him Jesus. Not to make fun of Jesus.
Right.
We just called him Jesus because he looked like him.
Was he already down that road in his life, or was he just a freak?
This is before that.
Yeah.
No, he had just come from the Army.
Okay. So he was turned on. He wasn't whacked out.
No, he was strictly guitar. Strictly a guitar player.
But he was already psychedelicized and hippie.
He wasn't into religion like he was later.
Right.
Yeah, no. And he didn't show off at all when he plugged his guitar in. He didn't make a peep. He just tuned his guitar. I'll try to imitate it. He was just like. He just tuned it real quietly, and we're like, this guy can't be that good. He's not showing off, All of a sudden, you can barely hear Jimmy Fox in the background. I remember like yesterday, he just going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And all of a sudden the band just went like. You went into that Elmore James. I can't play it, it's too high. Go a different key, like. That's that Elmore James riff. And there was a song called The Nazar Blue, which was just a copy off of Elmore James. I'm searching for my baby, I think I'm going to cry, or something like that. And it was a Yardbirds tune on a B-side of a 45. But it was like, what I'm trying to say was dead silence. no showing off, no feeding back, no nothing. And all of a sudden you could barely hear the count of the drummer, and everybody's like, and Wood's like, wow, just blew our heads off completely. It's like, and I thought that, and he went from one song to the next. Purple Haze, Fire, Foxy Lady, Sunshine of Your Love. And then his big claim to fame was they did a break song. It was called Jeff's Boogie. Now on the other side of one of Jeff Beck's 45s, I don't remember which one it was, with the Yardbirds, it said Jeff's Boogie. Right. And it was this riff. I got to pick, hold on. It sounds like a Les Paul riff, like it started like this. What? It was like this really cool thing, and it's about a 3-minute song, and Jeff Beck just, each time he goes through the boogie and they do a break, Jeff Beck played a little cool riff, Well, Schwartz, to make it better than that, he'd play rips of famous songs.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And then he'd go back into the boogie. And to this day, my band, we did that a few times at some big concerts, and everybody just died. They go, that is like the coolest song I ever heard. You guys are doing this riff, this boogie thing that... And in between that, you do some other thing, like I'll go into... Or like, then to go back into the riff again. And so I says, I got that from Glenn Schwartz 50-something years ago, And, but that was really cool what he did, and he just blew everybody away with doing that. That was like his claim to fame song. And, man, we went home that day and we just couldn't believe it. And we became a Glenn Schwartz follower. For the whole year, I think he was with that band.
Was that all he was with the James Gang?
I think it was just a year, yeah.
Okay.
I'm quoting Jimmy Fox.
Yeah.
It was about a year. And everywhere he went, he was like the Pied Piper. I mean, everybody followed him. We saw the same faces. He played a place called It's Boss. And what it was an old Giant Tiger department store that was abandoned, and they made it into a nightclub just for a short couple of months. It was called It's Boss. It was over on Brook Park and Chevrolet Boulevard. I remember that.
Sure.
And we begged my mother to drive us in a blizzard to go see this guy. And she sat in the car all night with the motor running, and we saw Glenn over there. And no matter where we saw Glenn, I mean, every time he played somewhere, we were there,
Wow.
And he became our heroes. And then I heard, once again, that Glenn Schwartz was teaching lessons at Mr. Diorango's Music Store. And Mr. Diorango was a great jazz player, world-renowned jazz player. I mean, he was the #1 guitar player in 1930-something on the cover of Downbeat magazine or something. He played with Charlie Parker, and young Miles Davis used to go see him play.
Wow.
And he moved back to Cleveland in his 50s, and he opened up this music store. And it was almost like the Little Rascals music store. I mean, everybody was there. Just a gang of guitar players, Everybody played guitar, and everybody was great. I mean, from 13-year-old Todd to 25-year-old people. I mean, Donnie Baker was there, and Chip used to hang around there. And Mr. D used to give jazz lessons. But then when I told my mother, I says, Mom, I really want to take lessons from this guy. And she says, well, okay, we'll think about it. And then by the time I went into the store the next time to go sign up for the lessons, we heard the Glenn had moved. And how we found that out, though, was not at the store, but we went to the Hullabaloo in Chesterland one night. This one particular night, we saw this one young-looking, blonde-haired, skinny little guy playing his Telecaster, and he's tuning up, We're waiting for the band to start, the James Gang, and all of a sudden they start to play, and this young blonde-haired guy, he must have been 20 years old, he's playing the guitar. And all my friends are going, where's Jesus? And I go, I don't know. And so we're just puzzled, you know, and they're playing the whole set with this guy. Maybe he's sick, you know. And so this older guy next to me goes, "You're talking about Glenn Schwartz, man?" And I says, "No, he moved to California, got a gig with some famous group." And we were like devastated. We were like, "Is that what the guy's name is?" We didn't ever knew what his name was. His name was Glenn Schwartz. And so my friends wanted to leave. They called their mother up to pick him up. They were so disappointed. And I had to go with whatever they wanted to do because the mother dropped us off. So we ended up leaving against my will. I didn't want to leave because I loved the band, you know. And then that Monday, I never forget, people said, the kids in school said, "You should have stayed, man. I mean, that kid was really good." He says, he wasn't Glenn, but he was just as good as Glenn in his own way.
Yeah.
And that's the first time in my life I heard that from someone, and I said, "Well, let's go see this guy again." And that guy was Joe Walsh, you know, and we went to go see him, and we stood in front of him, you know, like judging him, you know, and he was great. I mean, he was a fine guitar player, very tasteful, and he wasn't Glenn, he wasn't, you know, the Jesus guy that was foaming at the mouth, you know, and drooling and, you know, and sweating like James Brown. He was just real cool, and he was a whole different ball game. But he was a wonderful player. I could tell this kid was really good, you know. And then Joe Walsh became our next guitar hero, you know, to the point that that I actually got to meet him, you know, at the Boston Mill Ski Lodge. I was 15, and they were playing for maybe 20 people.
Wow. And
they had turned into a 3-piece band, and they were working on an album. And it was in the wintertime, I never forget. It was 20 people in the audience, and it was Tom Chris, Jimmy Fox, and Joe Walsh. And they had, and my friend Jimmy Greer's band, The Strangers, they called themselves the East Wind.
Sure.
After that.
Sure.
They were the warm-up act. And so we actually got the nerve to go talk to Joe Walsh. You know, so we walked up to him, and I says, "Hi, we're guitar players." And I said, "I got the same guitar as you now. I got a Les Paul I found in the pawn shop for $150. It was a 53 gold top I found." And, "Yeah, well, let me show you mine, man." And he pulled out his guitar and goes, "This is what you got to do. You got to take these pickups off of here, and you put the humbucking pickups on because they're stronger and they get a bigger sound. And then you got to get rid of that old tailpiece and put the Tune-O-Matic bridge on with a hardtail, okay? And then get rid of those old-fashioned keys and put Grover tuning keys on there." That was the big mod everybody did to their old Les Pauls, because the original Les Pauls weren't set up to be in tune, right? They actually evolved, from the year 53 to 54, 55. They evolved into what he was talking about. So we just did the evolution on our own.
Gotcha.
Did we lose the value of the guitar someday? Yeah. You know, like nowadays, I mean, I still have the guitar, and it's not worth as much money because I modified it.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that was going to happen back then. I even refinished mine in shop class. I thought it was ugly. Paint was all cracked. Now people go crazy looking for a Les Paul with cracked paint.
Yeah.
They'll buy one that was cracked on purpose, a relic. Crazy. Never thought that would happen.
Provenance.
So Joe Walsh gave me my first helpful hints on how to set up a Les Paul, you know. And that's so all through the years, it's, you know, that and I followed his career, you know, and he was a big inspiration. I got his album and I learned all his riffs, you know. Funk 40. Before there was Funk 49, there was Funk 48. You know, people don't know that.
Sure they do.
Well, a lot of people don't, though. You know, a lot of people don't even know he was in the original. The original James Gang wasn't him.
Right.
It was Glenn Schwartz.
Tell me about Ron Silverman. How's he fit into that whole...
Ron Silverman was the rhythm guitar player that when I first saw the James Gang, he was the rhythm guitar player.
Okay.
It was not Bill Jarrett. Bill Jarrett came a little bit later, I think. But Ron Silverman was the second guitar player I saw with Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember him distinctly. He played a Gibson 330 Sunburst. I remember the equipment. The equipment was a big deal back then, you know. Everybody, to learn about what people were using to get the sounds, you know, and what was popular, what was affordable, you know. And everybody had Fenders, you know. Fenders was the state-of-the-art amplifier, you know. And so later on, after Glenn moved to California, I was riding in the car one day, and I heard a song. It sounded like a gospel tune, stone gospel tune, and it was called "Are You Ready?" Okay, and didn't know it, but as soon as the guitar solo came in, it was Glenn, and I went, "Oh my God, that's Glenn!" And they said, "That's Pacific Gas and Electric. It's classic Glenn. If you ever get a chance to listen to that 45, I mean that." If you want to hear what Glenn Schwartz was all about, it's like, listen to that solo. It explains it all. That's the greatest guitar solo in the world. And I actually I ran out and bought that record. I screamed when I heard it on the radio, and I go, "That's Glenn." And I bought the record, and I took it home, and I learned it note for note, you know, just like him. And so that's up until, we're talking 1969 at this point. Yeah.
What I think's so cool about Glenn is fucking Jimi Hendrix picked him to play his birthday party, you know?
Yeah, well, there's a few stories about that.
Here, I'm going to get going.
There's a few stories about that. I talked to Glenn about that.
What did he say?
It was his, I don't know if it was a birthday party, but it was his birthday, or his birthday was coming up, but somehow he met Jimi Hendrix. You know, and Jimi Hendrix got to hear him play. It might have been at a party, and Hendrix showed up at the party.
I see. So it's
wasn't
been
like,
mythologized.
Well, you know, the story's always changed, but from what Glenn told me, it was a private party, and Hendrix was there and got to hear him, and he got to meet him, and he said something to Glenn, the same thing like he said to Terry Kath. When he met Terry Kath from Chicago, he says, "Your guitar player is better than me, and the horns sound like one long." But he also said that about Phil Kiegi, I heard, and he also said that about Glenn Schwartz. "You're better. He's a better guitar player. I wish I was as good as you." Hendrix was a real humble guy, you know.
Yeah.
But he knew he was the best. Come on, I mean, he knew who he was. And so he said that about a lot of people. And if he liked you, I heard Hendrix would give you one of his guitars. He gave one to Rick Derringer, I believe. He gave one to he gave a couple of them out. You know, I think Billy Gibbons got one, a Stratocaster. I've heard all kinds of stories about that.
I think
in fact, there's a picture of them together when they're all together, and Billy Gibbons has got this little baby face. He's got no beard and no mustache. He's got this little Beatle haircut. He just kind of like looking at the camera. He's next to Hendrix, and that's him. He used to call him Cowboy because he was from Texas. And on this one particular record, I forgot what song it is, Hendrix hits on the mic, goes, "This is going out to Cowboy," and that was Billy Gibbons.
Wow!
Yeah.
I never knew any of that.
He says that on the record. There's all kinds of Hendrix stories too. But Hendrix Schwartz did say something though, kind of made me laugh. You know, no offense, but to gay people, no offense. But he says, "Yeah, I met that Hendrix." He goes, "When he shook my hand, he goes, his hands are real long fingers," which he did. And he gave me a real weak handshake, like a real feminine handshake. I thought, I don't know about this guy. And he goes, he says he had a real weak shake. You know, he shake hands like a man. You know, and he was wearing. I noticed he was wearing women's blouses, and I went like, you know, you stop and think about it. There's a lot of, maybe he called it mod clothing to him. You know, the mod clothing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of pictures of Hendrix with these fluffy collared.
Androgynous.
Looks like women's blouses to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know.
Well, that was the big fashion.
It was just a fashion thing.
Yeah.
I even saw Stevie Ray Vaughan wearing a few colorful shirts that looked like they could be women's blouses. But it's just more of a get-up. You know, it's not like they're not showing their sexual preferences.
No.
You know, it's nothing about that. You know.
No, I think we've read enough of Jimmy's exploits to know he liked girls pretty
Jimmy
good.
had plenty of girlfriends.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that Glenn did mention that, and I thought that was funny that he mentioned that.
I went and saw him at some joint in Aurora like 15 years ago, And I'm videoing. I didn't talk to him or ask if I could or anything. And when he noticed, the song turned into One-Eyed Devil. And he was singing at me, about me, videoing him. And it was awesome. I have like 8 minutes.
I remember that. He did that. No, he had a thing for a while. He had a thing about people taking pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
And he didn't like that. He didn't like anybody dancing in front of him. He was definitely on a woman haters club.
Yeah, trip.
Trip. And he also didn't like drinkers or smokers. I mean, people would walk in, they just get their beer and they walk up to him. People had a bad habit of walking right up to him while he was playing and like checking him out, like we did when we were kids.
Yeah, yeah.
At the Armory. Everybody would crowd around him and just fold their hands and just watch his hands. He was mesmerizing. He had the charisma of God. I mean, playing the guitar. And if I seen a guy walk up to him with a big, tall brewery beer and a cigarette like this, and he'd go, "Smoke it up, dummy!" He'd be playing, and he started lecturing the guy about smoking and drinking and being a drunkard, and it was kind of cool though. Even when he played at the Rockwell Inn on Wednesday afternoons, it was a matinee from 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it seemed like he played straight through, and it was all college kids. And they had it advertised as the Schwartz Brothers and Shake the Earth. Glenn gets you ready for the Judgment Day. That was a great kind of like promo.
Yeah.
Even though it was
almost mockery.
Almost mockery, yeah. Right? Yeah. But he did that. One of the funniest things I have ever heard of that he did was I wasn't there that night. My friend told me that and this is a true fact. Anytime Glenn jumped off the stage or came close to you and played for you and looked you in the eye and just he'd get real close to you and you would feel this energy. I mean, some famous people have it, some people don't.
I know what you're talking about.
He had a charisma about him that I don't think I'll ever get that. I mean, I think I've tried to be the best I can and as a performer, but I don't think anybody's got this. This is something that comes with inside of a person. His soul was so deep, and his
shamanistic,
all the prayer and all the everything all the prayer he had, and playing in front of people for so many years, and he was such an intense person that you feel these vibrations when he got near you and he's playing, and you would feel like he would just, I can't say intimidation. It was kind of like intimidation, but it was like you got scared. Mm-hmm. Like you felt an energy. It wasn't just watching somebody's fingers. It was like you felt like a magnetism, and he had that. And very few people I've ever seen in my life, I don't know if any, ever had that. And he did this in one particular night, and there was this young girl sitting on the high top tables in front of hooples, and she was just like, my friend's telling me the story. He goes, she looked like she was just bored as hell. So he came over to her and started jamming for her, and she's like,
nonplussed.
It's not even phasing her, and all of a sudden he just kept jamming like he wasn't getting to her, And I'm thinking, God, if that was me, I'd be like shaking. And all of a sudden, at one point, right in front of him, she goes into her purse and pulls out a half of a bologna sandwich or something, and just starts going. And he stops playing and he goes, "How could you think of food at a time like this?" I wish I was there. I would have fell off my stool. It was, but that's true. How could you think of food? I'm jamming for you. I'm pouring my heart and soul out to you, and it's not even phasing you,
No better than a hunk of processed meat.
Oh my God. There was all kinds of stuff,
Well, you sell yourself short because I was always intimidated of you because your stage persona. I know now that you're just a big pussycat, but...
Yeah, Butch is a wuss.
Thank you for watching Cleveland Live Music. I can't play a lick. That's why I'm a taper. Thanks for watching the channel and making it grow. If you want to subscribe, that'd be appreciated. Patreon and GoFundMe would be appreciated. Maybe I could get guitar lessons.